this week is going to be the first fix for the electrics behind our dot and dab wall. But after your suggestions, it's not going to be that simple anymore because you keep coming up with too many really good ideas, like adding an Ethernet socket there. So obviously I've gone down a rabbit hole of searching for the right products and cables. I've ordered back boxes, and then later today I've realised I don't have one deep enough. So I've got more things coming tomorrow. Anyway, there's a lot going on. So let me just show you what I'm going to do briefly of where things are going to go. I did have somebody suggest about having some hidden points for start leads and stuff. Because it's a big 75-inch TV, which will end up probably going about the bottom edge, might be around there. We do plan to have a wood store there and a sound bar. There's not really going to be anywhere for cables to be travelling. I have bought a couple of brush plates so I can feed them through just in case, because, you know, I keep changing my mind on these things. The other day I didn't realise I was going to fit an Ethernet cable. So with the TV being about here with the bracket dead centre, I do want the electric sockets that we're going to install hidden. So I've got a 25mm deep back box, a metal one, that I'm going to fit potentially behind the TV. I've got to work out what side is best. And I've had to do loads of research on the depth of the back box. Apparently 25mm is a good size because I can either have it flush to the wall or bury it a little bit. So I've got this, I've got the Ethernet one going there, which will definitely have to be buried. All depends on the wiring. I don't want to find out later that I can't get it in once the plasterboard is on. I would be so stressed. I know you can get faceplate spacers. I don't even want to go down that road. And the reason I do think it's a good idea to add Ethernet cables is because we can plug it into the TV and hopefully we can free up any available Wi-Fi for other devices. And while we were thinking, oh, what else can we hide behind this wall while we've got the opportunity? Well, we've got an aerial point here, which I must admit we haven't used an aerial for quite a long time, but we may as well put it over there because I don't want any cables and stuff hanging around, dangling, when we can hide them. So that's another thing that I've got coming today or tomorrow. So I need to fit a back box for that. And apparently a 25mm back box is fine for that. Now the reason I say first fix also for the Ethernet is because I need to feed it through the loft and go over into the hall where our router is. Let me just show you. So we won't be able to do this today. I'm going to pull this away. That wasn't meant to happen. So we're in the centre of the house where we found the Wi-Fi works best. So we've got it plugged into the telephone line there. I don't know what that is. And a power point, which we've also realised we need to chase because my husband remembered, look, it's quite a dodgy setup this. So somebody's installed this and they've fed it all the way around a door frame to go to another socket, which also looks dodgy. But for here, for the Ethernet, we want 4 ports just to future-proof ourselves. The router does have only 3 spare, but what if we upgrade that later on and we can add more devices around the house? So that's why I need a back box for 4 here. So I'll be chasing a hole for this in the cables and for some conduit later down the line, and having extras is just a benefit in case any of the cables break. We may as well just have the wires up in the loft ready for when we need them. It's not going to stop us using the internet for now. I hope that made sense. So right now, obviously, this is a bit of a mess, so I need to clear it and remove any protrusions off the wall with my hammer drill and just double check. And I've also bought SBR bond, as one of you pointed out. In fact, this comes up every now and again, for me not to use PVA solution, to use this to seal any porous bricks. So anything that I stick to should hopefully adhere to it better. So I'm trying it for once. It was only a tenner for this. Oh, I've got my conduits, different sizes. The wood is for something else. I'm just going to dump it over here. Also last week I had a few recommendations on different matte emulsion type paints for the ceiling to hide cracks. Well, I couldn't find the one that somebody mentioned, which sounded like a Finnish brand. And this is what I went for, and I know it's dear. I think I've used this years ago, crack-free ceiling. So it's very expensive. I think it's about 46 quid per 5 litres. So I'll be doing this as a final coat, and I'll be using this throughout the house once I have filled and maybe done even paper tapes and stuff. And I treated myself to a fancy Harris roller, which is meant to be a superior finish. Again, it's just going to be for the final coat or two. I'm not going to go mad with that. And Mr. TCD's ripped off the packaging, so I can't tell you much about it. Superior finish walls and ceilings. Harris Ultimate. So we'll be trying that. The only thing that I wasn't sure about this was it's a particularly large roller. So hopefully I can get replacements for that. But I do like its woolly texture. And we do need to put the texture back of where I've been sanding my filler. But it's not looking bad. I just thought something else you might be wondering, because last week I said we were going to do the lighting this week as well. We cannot decide on lights to replace these and the sides. We didn't like the price, the style, or the cost of how much the bulbs would be to put in like 14 LED lights in one of them. We worked out it'd be £90 for the light fitting and then another 50 quid for the bulbs. That just put us off quite a bit. We need to clear that sofa because Hans is wanting a bed again. Yeah, we need to get something soon. We need to come to an agreement soon, otherwise we're going to struggle to put a video out. Come on, mate. I'll sort you out. This isn't your bed. You want cosy, don't you, mate? This ain't cosy. Well, I don't think you want to be in here in a minute because I'm going to make a lot of noise and dust. Well, I've got a confession to make. You know how I do loads of research, think, right, that's the method I'm going for, like dot and dab, and you end up going out and spending loads on the bags and stuff, which I have kept the receipt. I've kept the receipt. In fact, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I know what my dad would say. I want to take these back and just replace it with that Soodle spray foam plasterboard adhesive to put on the back of the panels and just stick up there. But it just looked less messy in general. I think a couple of people did actually mention about that's their favourite method. So yeah, if you want to convince me to stick with this, let me know. What's putting me off is the mess. It's the time it's going to take to mix it, get it on, maybe get it on you, and less clean up. So I might just go back to Tool Station to say, can you just take this back? But I'll buy that instead. So anyway, that's what I might do. I had a few people mention Corfix dot and dab fittings. I've already got them. I've had these for years actually. I got these as a PR sample years and years ago, maybe 2018 or something. I've never had a need for them because my dad usually just says drill straight in to the brickwork and use a big enough raw plug. But what happens is, and there's plenty of YouTube videos on this, is when you do drill your hole long enough, you can put the little metal collar inside. I'm not going to push it in because it's hard to get out. And that keeps it rigid in the plasterboard when you're putting your screw in to fix something. And they come in different sizes now, I've noticed. I'll have to go with something like that. Gym workout. So before I just put my hand over checking any other raised bits, I'm going to go for the main sections. I used my cordless SDS hammer drill with chisel to chip away at the mortar where the old cubby holes used to be. I was trying to be careful as it was tougher than the breeze blocks themselves, then carefully finished with a bolster and club hammer. I'll get Mr. TCD to feel on this side, and while I've got these, I may as well take the others off the other side of the chimney. Since we're making a mess and clearing it up. It's not a quick job this, it's truly stuck on. So we've got rid of all of the mortar off the brick walls and we've cleared it off the floors. Now I've got our 75-inch TV in front of us and it's been in a box for a while actually. What we don't know is, okay, we know that the screen itself is 75 inches diagonally, but we don't know the border around it. So we want to give it a quick measure and check where the access points are at the back and then plan on the wall as best we can now so we know the best place to put our sockets and aerial and stuff like that. So let's open it. We've also got it on a rug here because there's no carpet and I do not want to scratch this lovely new TV. Okay, so what we found out is that the power point is on that side over closer to you. So that'll be closest to the existing power points that we've already got. So we'll put something over there and all the SCART lead type stuff is on this side, but we've decided just to bunch it on the other side anyway, and run any cables along the bottom at the back, and we've got a cable tie to keep it tidy. We've also tried to see if our old bracket works. Apparently it's fine for up to 80 inches, but these two brackets were mounted to the back of the telly with the existing screws that are on the back. It's a little bit like a French cleat. You mount the flat bit to the back with the hook closest to you, and this is on the wall, and then we've got to lift the TV to hook on top of this lip. So if you get a close-up, we'll just have to show you as if the wall moves rather than the TV. And the slots hang on the lip. So I just need to get that. It's hard while it's not on the wall. You've got twisty knobs at the side that angle it as well. That's if we want a tilt. Now we want to get the measurements. 38 inches, which is 96 centimetres, thereabouts. So I've got some marks on the floor, and that is to account for the width of the TV, but dead centre of the wall. I'm just going to draw 2 long lines on the wall, and then we can sit down and work out what our perfect height would be. Is that how you want to watch the telly, Hans? Straight on? So this is not our final sofa, but it's a sofa. It gives us an idea. I'm sure we'll get something probably a bit bigger. I've been sat here with Mr. TCD, for maybe about 10 minutes trying to work out the best place. I know it would look visually better further up. The base of my neck here is saying 3 bricks up, so I can look straight on. Is it 30 inches or something? Oh, she's good, 30 inches. I think we're going to go with that. Also, something we discussed earlier is, although we are marking central now, and we won't see it soon because we've got plasterboard going on top, this centre point will move slightly because I've got to put dot and dab on the side of the chimney breast anyway. But it just gives us an idea of where we want the telly. And I'll obviously have to put loads of dot and dab as well, or whichever I'm doing, around where we're going to be putting the fixing bracket. So thanks for the reminder. I start marking out the perimeter of the TV and also the position of the bracket on the back, so we know to avoid the area while planning where to put a new double socket. So now I need to decide roughly where our back boxes are going to go. So this is roughly the height we're going with. I'm just going to draw a long line. It's going to be about there. That's the height. So I'm going to draw around it. You know what, I bet it's easy going like that. Yeah. Doesn't matter if I cut it and it's a bit roomy, I've got room to get it level with the boat level closer to the time. So that is the one of them, well, aerial or Ethernet. And then another one going about there. So I'm just going to go like that. I'm struggling to see them. So I am going to chase it in by about 5mm for the 25mm ones. That is the TV aerial and the electric point. I can't do anything with this yet, the Ethernet one, because the back box hasn't arrived, nor has the cable. So I'll worry about that later. So right now I'm going to put a diamond blade on my angle grinder and just cut 5mm in, and then do some score marks and chisel it out to set it back. I'll have to do even more for that closer to the time, but I need to find the angle grinder now. If you're wondering how I cut 5mm deep, I saw a tip off Rob's channel, Spend Time Save Money DIY, who used the edge of the disc, which is exactly 5mm, as a cutting depth guide. Once I got my outline, I scored in a crisscross fashion to get ready for a bit of fun, chiseling my notch out, which was surprisingly easy. Then moved up to a larger one to smooth it all off. I knew these tools would come in handy. Now I'm positioning my back box and gave it a wiggle to check for any high spots that needed removing. And now onto my single socket. Like that. So before I mount my back boxes to the wall, I've gone up in the loft exploring to see whether there is any cables above, because I didn't want to drill a hole through and then meet a cable. And we also need to connect the wiring to our double socket to the wiring of the other double socket, which is just about a foot away. Also, we've had a look and there's rafters going the other way, So I've noticed I've got about 1 centimetre to drill a hole to poke my cables through. So I just want to quickly show you what I did yesterday. I've chiselled enough out so they're all level. And I've also chiselled a bit more than I needed around so I can get them all level in a row. So before I mount them to the wall, I know I want the cable on this side, so I'm going to knock this out now. To mount it, I've got a 6mm masonry drill bit with a piece of tape to stop me going too far. And I've got 2 little oblongs in the centre so I could try and get them level. I've got my marker. So I've tightened it up with 1 screw just so I can get it level and work out my next drill hole. Right, so that's another drill hole done, but before I put the back box back, I'm putting a rubber grommet on. So this should protect the cable. Now I've got that level, I'm using a straight edge this time to hold it up against the level box. And now I can rest my next box on top of that. Right, I forgot to knock this out first. If you can, put the grommet in first before mounting. It's far easier. So I've drawn a straight line with a spirit level on the wall in line with the wire. I'm holding my conduit up and I'm marking where I need to cut it down. I'll cut that down on the miter saw, I think. And that wasn't the best idea because it chips a little bit. We'll put that in place in line with my plumb line. And that tells me I need to drill a hole around there for my cable. So now I'm going to drill a hole for my cable to go through on that pencil line. I didn't hit wood. So now I'm going to thread through some 2.5 twin and earth cable. I'll go through the grommet first. I'm going to try and get it through there. I don't know if my hole's big enough. You know what? I want my drill. Yay. Hopefully I've poked enough through there, but I know I could pull more from the other side if needed, and then connect it to the wire that's going along the other way, just a little bit set back, and then once I've connected it, I can mount it to the joist. So I'm up in the loft and I can't look at you because I've got a head torch on, and I've found my cable, which is just here. The electrics aren't off yet. I've just come up here. Mr. TCD is going to go back down just to turn them off. Anyway, what I want to do now is try and reuse this aerial, and Mr. TCD's already unscrewed it at the bottom, and we're going to try and pull it up, and it's coming. But will this damage it? Ah, damn it. Well, there's no going back now. Right, let's just check that. Right, let's get that out of the way. Now we know we can drill our next hole shortly. We've got a lot of excess here, which is good. Right, let's put that to one side. So remember, this is not connected to anything, so I'm going to get it prepped first before the lights go off. And I'm using Wagos, but inside, this time I've gone for the smaller connectors that actually slot in these holes. And I'm going to strip, it's been a while since I've done this, about 2 inches off. That's done. So I know I need an earth sleeve for this in a minute. So now I'm going to strip about 1 centimetre off the wires. If you don't feel competent or confident, don't do this. I need an earth sleeve. I've pushed it on and folded it back, and I know I need about 1 centimetre off just before that. So that is going on. So now I've got a 3-port Wago, which I'm going to attach to each one. So I can connect the brown to brown, the blue to blue, and the earth to earth. But in this case, we know we've got red and black wires in the existing cables. So this is about where I want to cut the cable. And I'll end up with 2 lives, 2 earths, and 2 neutrals. So this is the cable that's feeding to the double socket next to the old aerial point. Cut it about there, yep. Wow, that's tough. Come on. Come on. Why is that not going? So again, I'm taking about 2 inches off. That is tough. There. Now to strip the other end of the cut cable. Wow. Earth on. So now we're doing black to blue. That's neutral. The old wires with the new wires. Earth to earth. Give that a bit of a tug test. And then red to brown live. You can actually see these. These are transparent, which I like. You can see them going in properly. So that's the last neutral going in. Pushing in. That's all connected. So what I've done is reconnected the old line together, but I've added my new one in between. So I'm spurring off it. Bear in mind, sometimes these go missing. So I just need to keep that there and look after it. And now I need to try and get this all tidied up together. So I need to try and get these all slotted in. Ah, done. Done. Well, I didn't put it in the slots, but it's in and it's secure. And all the sheath is intact around the cables here, so I'm happy with that. So now I'm screwing the mounting bracket to the rafter. So that should slot on there. I'm glad I don't do this for a living up here. I'm having a bath tonight. No, it's actually a cold shower you recommend after working with insulation. So we're putting that under the cables. So the electrics are still not on, and we're just going to tidy this up. So I'm going to give myself 250 mil to play with. Oh, it's not as hard as the others. Just so I can strip this and get some Wagos on. Now the reason I don't want to wire it up now is because when I get my plasterboard pushed up to the wall, I want to bang it against these sockets. So that will mark where I need to cut them with a pad saw. And once it's all dot and dabbed, I'll obviously then wire the faceplate on. So now I'm terminating them with some Wagos. I don't have single Wagos, so I've got some with 2 ports. So we'll leave that there and we can turn the electrics on now. So we'll put some conduit on this later. Right now, because I know it's the right length, I'm going to put this above the grommet for the aerial, which needs to roughly be about there. So I'm going to drill a hole about there. And Mr. TCD is going to poke it through and I'm going to pull it down. Yeah, wow, this is going on forever. So as you can see, I've got much more than I need. And that's because it used to go all the way down to there. So obviously I don't need this much, so I'm going to cut it down. But I'm not going to cut it really short because I can always feed a bit more back up there, and I might need more to practice with in case I don't get it right. I'm going to try my hardest to cut with this, but I might need a Stanley knife instead. Oh, it worked. Anyway, while I was up in the loft earlier, the Amazon delivery driver turned up with our Ethernet cable stuff. And I bought a few things. I won't be connecting it today, obviously. And these were recommended from the DIY guide video. So if you want to do that sooner before me, I'll leave a link to that video. But something I want to check out is the back box situation, because I want to chase this out now. And I've already done a little test. So we're adding 2 ports to ours. And I wasn't sure about the back box situation, whether 25mm was deep enough by the time you've actually wired it up. So let me just show you. I've got the 25 here. So this is what it will look like on the wall, apart from there'll be another one. One's for the TV and one might be for a game system or something. So by the time I've put a cable in and wired it up, I think this is a little bit too tight for me. I'd rather give myself a little bit of room. So it might work, I'm not entirely sure. That's where I'm going to go for the slightly deeper one. So this is a 35mm one, and as you can see, I've got a lot more wiggle room. And after watching a few YouTube videos on it, it looks pretty straightforward, matching up the colour-coded 8 wires to the colour codes on here. Hopefully, it'll be as easy as it looks. So because this back box is deeper, I've held it up against the one that is sat back in the wall. And this is how much I need to chisel it out of the back. 17, 18 mil. I might have to put a little mark on my blade if I can see it. And that is exactly what I did, which is the black ring that you see on the disc here. So it's the same method as before, which I really enjoyed doing. I spaced it the same distance apart as the first one, then marked my drill holes with my new Marksman marking tool before drilling and mounting to the wall. Now it's time to cut the Ethernet cable so I can drill another 2 holes in the ceiling and thread it through into the loft. Then nail some conduit to cover the cables. I use these capping nails which come with little washers attached, or you could just use small masonry nails. Done! That is all 3 covered up. So now what we've got is a new socket attached to the circuit up there for the existing living room sockets. We've got an aerial cable that will attach later as well. That's feeding up to the aerial near the chimney, and we've got our Ethernet cables. We've just fed them through and numbered them for now, and those 2 Ethernet cables which we've got running in the loft ready to actually chase through the wall where we said earlier, they are solid core, outdoor and flexible. So we've tried to go for the best quality. It's 60 metres long as well, so we had to go to the other end of the garden to try and cut it in half for now. So the other end of those 2 cables have a male port on the end still. We haven't cut them off. So with that in mind, would you leave the male ports intact and plug them into a port up there and only have a little bit of chase cables in the wall to connect to it, or just one continuous cable from here to the other end where the 2 sockets are? Let me know. I really don't know what the best thing to do is, but right now I've got one last job to do, and that is cover up that exposed aerial socket. It's looking better already, but it's not too much of an issue because we are going to cover this area with a wood store. But good news, we've finally decided on lighting, so I think that is going to be next week's job. But if you do anything differently or you've got other tips and tricks, let me know, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.